Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Mike Canings of MikeCanings.co. Mike, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Great to be here, Gresh. It's been looking forward to this.
Definitely super excited to have you on as well. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Mike so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And in the words of Tony Robbins, Mike is an extraordinary man. He brought me insights on how to reach people on the internet that are so valuable. This is the man you should deal with. Take advantage of what he has to offer. Mike is known for being a media master who knows how to help his international clients get attention, create premium brands, and elevate status in days. Mike has had 4 business exits, 2 to publicly traded companies. His first digital cafe is one of the first digital marketing agencies in the world and sold to IPG, the Interpublic Group. His 2 SaaS companies, Traffic Geyser and Instant Customer, were sold to publicly traded companies as well. And his most recent was You Everywhere Now to a private buyer. Mike, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I sure am. Thanks for that.
No problem. Thank you for doing all the awesome work. And to kind of kick everything off, I wanted to hear a little bit more on how you got started. Could you take us through what I call your CEO story? We'll let you get started with all the awesome work you're doing.
Yeah, well, the short version is I grew up lower middle class in a tiny town in Eagle Lake, Minnesota. My dad was a barber. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And when you grow up in rural Minnesota, it is cold and there wasn't a lot to do. And I didn't have a lot of mentors. We certainly didn't have money. So I had to figure it out myself. So I started working, doing everything from shoveling to doing paper routes and all that. And I started working full time at a local gas station the day I turned 16. That's when I could legally work. Mm-hmm. And also taught myself how to program when I was 14. And that I felt was my gateway out. So I taught myself how to write video games, eventually did that, and then started a digital cafe. And we ended up doing branded video games and promotions for the movie industry. So my partner and I were just 2 kids from rural Minnesota who started doing business with Hollywood and found our way into working with big brands. And eventually we wrote a video game that shipped in 6 million boxes of cereal for General Mills. And when we sold that company, made a feature film. And that's when I discovered online marketing, direct response marketing, studying people like Dan Kennedy, and taught myself how to make information products. So my first info product was called the Internet Infomercial Toolkit. My second was with a woman who is a publicist for Oprah, for Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Neil Donald Walsh, Louise Hay from Hay House Books, huge luminaries at the time. And we created a product called Everything You Should Know about publishing, publicity, promotion, and building a platform. So it's basically how to make money as an author. And that stuff led me to starting Traffic Geyser, which was a digital marketing platform, Instant Customer, which was a 2-way interactive mobile text marketing platform. Sold those in 2015, and then it just went on and on. I've always been fascinated with how do you get attention? How do you build an important, like a celebrity class reputation or profile, and then how do you monetize it? So it's building audiences, monetizing audiences, influencing, persuading, and finding the hacks and the shortcuts to get there. And so now when I sold You Everywhere Now, which we helped 1,800 people become best-selling authors. We taught them how to do info products and how to get attention, how to speak and sell. And we media trained too. I built a big studio. And I realized I wanted to go narrow and deep and build an ecosystem with fewer people, with more value, and simplify. And that's really what led me to where I am right now. Instead of being wide and shallow, I went narrow and deep. And that really, I find that a lot more interesting. And I love the depth of the relationships that I have with my clients now, where before it was transactional. So I went from transaction to transformation.
Nice. I absolutely, love that. And I'm literally listening to the audiobook Deep Work now, and it talks a lot about, being able to go deep. As I'm starting to kind of leaf through it or listen to it, I should definitely say. So it's great to kind of hear that you've been able to do both sides of the coin, and you seem to be able to find a tremendous amount of value in being able to do that deep work, so to speak. So could you take us through a little bit more on that work that you're doing and how you serve your clients and what exactly that looks like?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing is we all enter into the world transactionally. In other words, you get rewarded by school for getting good grades. In other words, learning someone else's stuff and repeating it back to them, being a good little girl or a good little boy, and you get grades for that. And if you get a job, you get paid to do things. Do, pay. And you're a commodity. You're subject to a market value for a transactional behavior. Now, if you move up a little bit, you might go to school, get advanced education, get a degree, get, but you're still basically a cog in the system, and you get paid for knowing. And you know, some people are stuck in paid for doing their whole lives. And I'm not judging it. It's just a reality, right? Then there's paid for knowing. And a knowing doing business might be something that is doing related that has some very unique skill sets. But the third tier is getting paid for being. And that's when you reach celebrity class, when you are no longer commoditized, when you decide who you want to work with, and someone will invest in you simply because of who you are, not what you're doing or knowing for them. And I'm spent an enormous amount of time, years, thinking about that and thinking about how do you create a being person where in a being business, a being economy, a being ecosystem. So in fact, right before you and I got on today, I was being interviewed by one of my clients. His name is Justin Donald, and I met him a little over a year ago in Fiji, of all places. We were there through a mutual friend, and we started chatting, and my first impression is, this guy's just a nice CPA. You know, he's kind of, ordinary guy, but I said, so tell me about you. And he goes, well, I do cash flow investing. I go, really? What's that mean? I said, well, I've generated enough business and enough investments that I have enough income coming from that pays for all of my expenses, so my wife and I never have to work. And I'm like, man, I want more of what you got. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've stashed away cash, but I don't have investments that are always producing that. I just didn't think that way. And and so I asked him some more questions. I asked him all his how questions, and I learned that he has a very unique strategy, a way of thinking about money and investing. And finally I said, have you ever thought about writing a book? Yeah, I'd love to write a book. Have you ever thought about creating a product? Yeah. How about doing have you ever thought about maybe working with people and teaching them how you think and how to invest and how to build equity like you do? And he goes, yeah, I'd love that. And I go, well, you met the right guy today. I'd love to help you get there. So we started a collaboration. And the first day we were together, so we do these things, we call them vision days. And that's where we get together and reinvent someone and bring them from their knowing business to a being business. Or we build a corporate brand or a personal brand. And we do it in a couple of days, and it will be really tapping into and figuring out what's the story you need to tell to be able to charge $50,000 or $250,000 or more for your product or your service, and how to tell that story and how to replicate it and craft the sales scripting and the messaging. And then part of what I'll do is I'll have to help that person start getting a lot of interviews based on their new identity, which is their brand. Or and I will frequently write about them and publish them in Entrepreneur magazine. So I'm a writer for Entrepreneur and Forbes. So I basically give them like instant credibility and status. And so what wound up happening with Justin is we created the term lifestyle investor. We trademarked it. We bought the domains, and then I called them I said the title of the article in Entrepreneur is Justin Donald is the Warren Buffett of lifestyle investing. Mm-hmm. So now he's got a hook, and we created a book that is called Lifestyle Investor. And the subtitle is The 10 Commandments of Cash Flow Investing for Passive Income and Financial Freedom. So here's the point of all this. That's just one example, but it's, imagine being able to walk in and have some skills, but walk out 2 days later with a story that you can share that makes people want you and be willing to pay a lot more for who you are, not what you do or what you know. And in Justin's case, I sort of proved it to him. So while we were together during our first vision day together, I knew someone who was in town who reached out to me. He's in one of my business groups that I participate in. I said, I want to connect you guys because this guy I knew had some money, had recently sold his business, and he had casually mentioned to me that he had some investments that fell apart. And I said, I want to introduce you to a guy who invests and thinks about money very, very differently. And I think you guys are really going to get along. You'll probably want to collaborate. Made the connection. And then a couple weeks later, this guy had enrolled with Justin for $250,000 for him to be his advisor.
Nice.
And then the same week, he enrolled someone else who was already in his purview, but he had a new story to tell. And so the bottom line summary is, you and I are one story away from having access to and enrolling people in whatever you can imagine. Now, it has to be real, obviously, but it's about crafting what I consider to be a classic hero's journey. And that's the Joseph Campbell hero's journey that every great movie is based on. Every great metaphor and myth is based on it. It's once upon a time, they slayed the dragon, rescued the princess, and lived happily ever after. Amen. But what we do is we compose and craft a movie starring the prospect as a hero in a journey with you and your product and service as the guide.
Nice.
And every business, every product that really works well uses a variation of that formula, but most people just fall into it by accident. They don't deliberately craft it. And so, we build the ecosystem and the tools to make that happen in the shortest period of time. And I found that to be impossible to do when I existed in my previous agency, my software business, and some of the other things. And now I'd rather do it with fewer people instead of wide and shallow, because I want to love the people I work with and love their businesses too.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And kind of sounds like that's part of what you feel like kind of sets you apart and makes you unique. And is that ability to obviously see that being and who a person is. Often I say, if you run your own race, you can never lose, because you're running your race, and just being able to kind of tap into that and really help people to get their name, their story, what they do to be themselves really out there.
Yeah. And that's what we call it, the superpower accelerator. That's the business name, because really it's figuring out and finding out what is your unique superpower that can clearly differentiate you. What are the transformational stories that seem to be following you around? And, we have everyone we work with do extensive personality profiles and tests. We learn a lot about your character and your essence in addition to your own journey, and craft that story and then craft that offer. We call it, it's market, model, message, media. So it's, who do you really want to focus on? And not the 80%, not the 20%, maybe the 2%, but the 0.2%. And then what's the business model? What are you going to provide? What's that value? What's that package? How's it positioned? And then what's the message? What's that story? And then finally, what channel? The media is what channel are you going to reach people in? And really, it's 4 steps, but it's artistry just as much as discipline. There is no shortcut. There's no magic formula for this. It's grueling, hard, brain-breaking work. But on the other end, you got Justin Donalds showing up, and we've got another guy. His name is Charlie Epstein. He's a financial advisor. Boring job, heavily regulated industry that's very, very controlled. And we ended up creating a one-man show because I hired 3 professional comedians, and we wrote a one-man show called Yield of Dreams based upon his life and what we call his myths of money. So we don't have to worry about compliance crawling up our rear ends.
Right.
It's a play. It's a play about stories. And it's designed to attract the right fit client who raises their hand and says, I've been looking for someone just like you. Manage my money. Help me make more. Help me reach that dream that you talk about.
Yeah, that's so huge to be able to kind of be yourself and to see the fruits of your labors or the yields, as you said, as well. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and you might have already touched on this, but I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Okay, my biggest one is something I call it money phone. And I wrote a book about this years ago, and I'm updating it right now. And it's evolved into a sales system. But here's the basic premise behind it. Anytime I meet someone, I always take a picture with them. Or if it's happened virtually, like, we've been living in the land of the Zoom, I'll take a quick screenshot. And then try to start a conversation that I know I can provide some value. So I'll ask someone about their business, their life, or whatever it is, and I'll follow up right away with an idea. And basically, I pull out my phone and I say, hey, so-and-so, following up from blah, 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 and I've got a couple ideas that I know are going to help you with your business, your life. Let me know if you, and I might give away one of them. I'll say one of them is blah, 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 but the other one will maybe take a little bit of interaction because I might have to capture a little more information first. I send it to them. And then who gets those and who sends them? Not too many people do that. So they immediately follow up. I'll schedule a conversation, and that'll create what will lead into an enrollment conversation. But the same is true. Let's say I have a sales conversation, or I teach my sales people how to do this as well. After we're done, someone might say, hey, can you send me a proposal? And I'll say, how about I answer all your questions right now and create a video that describes everything that this includes that you can also share with the other decision makers or anyone who may have some objections. And I'll find out if there's someone else who's involved in the decision, who is it and what would their primary reason why you wouldn't move forward be. And I get a list of those, and I literally will make a short video with them present and follow up. And the whole idea is, number one, I don't write proposals. Okay, if someone wants a proposal, they have to write out a check for $10,000. But I'll answer any of your questions. I'll give you the video proposal now because it's much more nuanced. The net is, by using this money phone strategy, you're going to increase the intimacy, the connection, the size of the transaction, the speed the transaction takes place in, and the depth of the relationship you have with the decision maker and some of the other influencers. That would be my number one CEO hack that has brought me an enormous amount of income, wealth, and deeper, more meaningful connections too.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And I love the foundation being that value that you're providing and being able to kind of communicate that value in a very, very efficient way. So absolutely love the money phone hack. And so now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. So this could be a word of wisdom or a piece of advice. It might be something you would tell a client, or if you hopped into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
All right. Well, I'll pre-frame this with my first business cost me a marriage, and my second two just about cost me my life. I had stage 3A colorectal cancer 8 years ago, and it just about killed me. And at the time, I had a 10-year-old boy who's now 18. And fortunately, I got some great care. And I married an amazing woman. We've been married now 20 years. And just 2 days ago, I was on my electric bike on a trail, and I hit 2 rocks. I fell down, I landed on my shoulder, and I broke my collarbone. So I'm talking to you right now. And as long as I don't move, I'm not in excruciating pain. But holy cow, was it a reminder. And here's the lesson. You don't know when your time is going to come up. And you've got to build a business around your life, not your life around your business. And there's nothing worse than being a wealthy, successful person where your children hate you and you don't know who they are, and they don't know who you are, you don't know who they are. And to me, just taking and making that time, nothing is going to go away. And going narrow and deep, not wide and shallow, is the secret to happiness. And I believe that a toxic mindset and a toxic lifestyle that is over busy will eventually turn into a disease and get you. And I've watched it happen over and over again. So make that time. And don't be working for, I'm finally there. Maybe when I'm here, I can finally X. You got to be doing that along the way. Take that time, make that time, and don't let your business cost you a marriage, the deep, meaningful relationship with your children, or your life.
Mike, I absolutely love that, and I'm glad you're toughing through this to be on this podcast. But that really hits home, because I think so many times we forget why we're doing what we're doing. We're just so locked in on that target. But to really remember the relationships, the family, the friends, all of those things, the reason why we're truly what we're doing is so important. So I love, building the business around your life, not vice versa. So I wanted to ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So Mike, what does being a CEO mean to you?
I think being a CEO is being accountable to your team, your clients, and a distinct set of values that you won't compromise. And that is what a great leader is. So a great CEO is also a great leader, but you've got to know the order of who you're serving. And of course, you've got to take care of you. You got to make sure your health and your brain and your body are at peak performance. But that's what mine would be.
Nice. I absolutely love that, and making sure to keep your cup full so that you can give and be of service to so many others on so many different levels. So Mike, truly appreciate that definition. I appreciate your time even more. What I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things that you're working on.
Well, honestly, I didn't know what questions you're going to ask me today, so here's what I have. I have a little gift. One of the things I did a few years ago is when I wrote Money Phone, I've got the book. I also made a step-by-step video of how to do it, and it's right here. You can get the book and the video for free at gomoneyphone.com. And then I've got 2 podcasts that I do also. I do one called Capability Amplifier with the amazing Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach, but also another one called The Big Leap with Gay Hendricks, who wrote the book The Big Leap, which is all about getting past your upper limits challenges as a person or as a business leader. He's written 37 books, really brilliant. Both of them are amazing souls that I have the great honor of spending time with. So, take the free stuff, check out some more podcasts, and keep on filling your brain with good stuff.
Awesome. We will definitely have the links and information in the show notes so that everybody getting a copy of the book, find out exactly how you execute, and hear, of course, the awesome podcast that you have as well too. So Mike, truly appreciate you. Appreciate all the awesome work that you're doing. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
You too. Thanks for this opportunity to be on your show.